Internationally recognized for financial services technology, marketing, and e-commerce expertise, Julio Gomez is a trusted advisor to business leaders. He has worked for companies, started and sold firms, and his latest role is as the general manager of financial services firm Ativio, a company as best described by the Boston Globe, which helps to get its clients access to information that may be spread across emails, Word documents, or different databases. Julio, welcome to Language of Business.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Greg.
Pleasure to have you on the show. So when I mention the words entrepreneur, startup, and attorney, what's the first thought that comes to mind?
Well, I guess partnership. You know, there are very few success stories in business that weren't a result of a team effort. And, you know, entrepreneurs, as much as the strength of their ideas, what's important is their strength in building a good team. And so entrepreneurs need to be able to spot good talent, bring them in where appropriate, and, you know, and good counsel is an important part of that.
And how so have you used attorneys over the years?
In a variety of ways and at different stages. So, you know, the spectrum, I guess, is from basically virtual attorneys when in a recent startup that I did where I incorporated myself, right, to actually using attorneys for that purpose of forming the company when it was important to take into account certain things like corporate structure, tax considerations, you know, beginning with the end in mind, you know, knowing where we were going to take the company, make sure that the company was structured properly to get there. And then, of course, over the normal course of business, I mean, I've had in-house counsel that was very, very successful to have as part of the key management team, particularly as we were expanding globally, when we were making acquisitions, as we're developing intellectual property that we want to protect. You know, having a good attorney at your right hand is a critical factor.
What one or two single pieces of advice would you give to entrepreneurs in terms of how to best use their own legal counsel?
Sure. Best use your own legal counsel. Well, there are a couple things that entrepreneurs need to be aware of, and I think generally they are, which is that, you know, entrepreneurs usually aren't idiot savants. They tend to have a good broad base of knowledge. And I guess my counsel to them would be, don't abdicate the role of legal to your counsel. Still stay involved. You know,
don't treat it as a black box.
Don't treat it as a black box. Read those documents. You know, you're smart enough to get a good sense of it and actually work with your counsel and actually be of help to your counsel by reading up on some of the things that are going across his desk.
Would you recommend, if you had to go through it all again, having in-house counsel or outsourcing that to an attorney's network or a firm with a large bench?
Well, that really depends, and I've done both. I guess if your pace of change in your corporate development is rapid, I think that pace of change is directly proportional to the appropriateness of having in-house counsel.
So let's talk about your career and your move from starting your own company or companies to now working for another. Why have you made the decision to now work for a different company as opposed to yet starting another one?
Sure. Well, you know, entrepreneurs generally are driven by a sense of mission, right? So, but I guess not every inspiring mission has to come out of my own head. I guess what I really did was find something that was incredibly captivating. You know, Ativio is a company that's it's a hot company in a hot space with a bunch of really talented people addressing some major problems, which is how do we take all these mountains of data that sit in silos that are of a variety of types, structured data in databases, unstructured data. Everyone's talking about big data as though it's all about Hadoop and log files. Really, that's only one piece of the big data pie. And then really 80% of it, which is unstructured content, all of the text, all the documents. And correlating across all those different types to drive new insights, that's really the promise of big data. And when I saw what Ativio was doing, I said, you know, this is disruptive technology that the customers and companies that I've worked with over the years have been craving. I want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Help our viewers to understand what it's like to run a division, either as a VP or a general manager, versus running an entire company.
Well, you know, in a sense, it's the best of both worlds. When you're in a growth environment and you have a business unit that you can grow, it's like being a CEO within a company without a lot of the headaches. Our CEO, Ali Riaz, he gets to deal with the board, he gets to deal with investors, he gets to deal with legal.
Right.
And I just get to build the business. So it's both can be extremely satisfying.
What do you think is the next hottest trend in tech?
Well, definitely big data. I mean, it's, you know, if I look at if I look at the evolution of these organizations, the big trend has been digital. So from telephone calls and faxes and mounds of paper to everything being digitized. And what has gone along with that is the ability to communicate and create content more quickly. And so that's been very rapid, the escalation in the amount of digital content, because it's just easier to produce,
of course, right?
So I don't know all the statistics about, like 10 years ago versus today. It's, Library of Congress, 10 times over now, and then in 5 years it's going to be 1 billion of those. Anyway, we all know there's a ton of data. And being able to derive value from these things that are happening is going
going silo to silo, as you indicated.
Going silo to silo is great, but also, just as a consumer, I know the benefit that I get and the value that I place in going to a place like Amazon.com and having them kind of know me.
Right.
And so I think you're going to
knowing
start
your preferences, your past order history, what genre you like, etc.
Saving me time that way, right? And making the interaction much more rich and valuable. And that's something that we're going to see more and more of going forward.
Excellent. Thanks, Julio.
My pleasure.
Julio Gomez, experienced data and industry analyst, and of course, entrepreneur. In this episode, we looked at working with attorneys to set up, manage, and protect companies during different phases of their operations. Next time on Language of Business, we'll look at how companies are financed and how funds are raised as we discuss the financial section of the business plan. I'm Greg Stoller, and thank you for watching The Language of Business.